and gentlemen, Mr. Raymond Aaron.
I'm so excited to introduce to you a dear friend of mine, a towering spirit, a person who's done enormous research in the field of personal growth. I'm honored to call him a friend. Bill Harris, one of the stars of The Secret. Bill, you were very well known and had produced a powerful product and were very successful well before the movie of The Secret. But nevertheless, you must have learned some powerful lessons as a result of leading up to The Secret and then what's happened since. Share with us some of that.
Well, you know, I've been teaching this information for a long time, and I've really thought about this quite a bit. And I think this one of the great things about The Secret is the fact that it alerts people to the fact that, a very simple fact, that what you focus on tends to happen in reality, that you tend to figure out a way to make whatever you focus on come true in your life. However, I really don't think that is the biggest stumbling block to most people. I think that definitely people need to know that. I think the biggest problem actually is that most people are doing their focusing unconsciously. Even if you know that what you focus on is going to come true, if your whole process of focusing is just running on autopilot, you're going to remember to focus on what you want a few minutes here and a few minutes there. I mean, this is sort of the old cliche of somebody that's saying 10 minutes of affirmations a day, and 23 hours and 50 minutes of the day, they're doing the same old unconscious thing that they've been doing before, and then they wonder why the 10 minutes of affirmations isn't doing anything. So a lot of what I do is trying to get people to be aware of the focusing process.
All the time, or as much of the time as they can.
Yes, and there are ways. Actually, the focusing process is very complex. I mean, until you've visited all the parts of it, then it doesn't seem so complex. But what we do is we get people to look at each part of the internal process by which they create their reality, one at a time, one part at a time, and go inside and watch themselves do it, and watch what happens, and really get so you understand the connection between what you do inside and what actually happens. And there are quite a few steps and sub-steps to this. And if you go and play with them in this way, you finally...
You've done research on this.
Absolutely. And you finally get to the point where you cannot do any internal processing that's leading to a certain outcome without being aware of it. Now, if you are aware of this, of how you're doing this, and it's leading to something that doesn't serve you, you won't be able to keep doing it. It's impossible to do something that's not resourceful and do it consciously. You can do, and many people have proven this, and I've done it myself many times, you can do something that does not serve you over and over and over and over again for your whole life, as long as you do it outside of your awareness. As long as you're now, you might be aware of the outcomes that you're creating, but the internal process that led to them, if it's under the surface running on autopilot, you can just keep doing it forever. So what we teach people to do is to become aware of that process. And in becoming aware of it, just that.
I know.
You know, as has been said, awareness in and of itself is transformative.
Yes, a funny way I have heard it said is, you're unaware is dirty.
Oh, that's a good one. So I have essentially two tools. One is this holosync audio technology that you're aware of.
That I use.
That you know, when people meditate with holosync, it accelerates the meditation process very dramatically, and people develop a tremendous awareness of, and one of the things they develop awareness of is how they are creating their reality. And then we go in and look at this, what I call your internal map of reality, and look at all the pieces and how you're using them and what results the way you're using them is creating, and then you begin to see all the other choices that you're not exercising.
Yes.
Because that internal map of reality gets set when you're growing up based on your family situation, and you create your way of processing things in order to essentially stay safe and make it through your family. In some cases, that's more difficult than others. In some cases, the family is very benign. You have good mentoring and all this sort of thing. And the internal map of reality that results is a pretty good one.
Yes.
And the people are pretty successful. Still, however, even those successful people are generally running these internal processes, your internal map of reality, unconsciously.
Yes.
So when they learn to run it consciously, it opens up so many more possibilities. And that's when people really take off. And I know that if I hadn't gone through this myself, I certainly, any amount of success I've had has been really due to having done this.
Do you know how I see it? I'm just going to bring it down because you speak at such a powerful level. I just want my listeners to understand it at just a really
and you're so
clear
good at
level.
This too, so.
Someone will come up to me to ask for advice, and they'll say, just let me give you a little background on myself. And they'll say, I was hit by a car, I was crippled, I went through 2 years of this, and my mom died recently. And I say, are you a positive person or a negative? Oh, I'm very, very positive. And I said, well, everything you've just said is negative. Oh, I just wanted to bring you up to date. I said, well, how about bringing me up to date on some positive things? And they don't realize it. They don't realize that they're delivering all this negativity and wondering why the law of attraction is delivering negativity to them.
To the degree that an area of a person's life is not working, if you follow what they're doing, point it out to them, they will be focusing on what they do not want in that area.
I know.
And then because your brain tends to, your mind tends to produce whatever you focus on, because they're focusing on what they don't want, they figure out some very creative ways of making it come about, even though it's not what they want.
I know. And in the movie The Secret, you talked about that gay man, and it was one of the highlights of the movie. It was just a brilliant...
That really was an amazing story, that young man who finally got it, and actually switched his thinking to what he wanted, and his whole life changed in an amazing
And I remember
way.
when we were filming for that, you came in and said, oh, I've got one more story, why don't I just throw it in? And that's a story you just threw in at the end, and that was like one of the highlights of the whole movie.
Yeah, that was a great story. He was an amazing young man, really, that he was willing to. You see, this is the other thing, is that one of the things that I say quite often to my students is, for any outcome you want, there's a certain way of thinking and acting that will get it for you. You have to find that way of thinking and acting, and then you have to be willing to adopt it. Now, actually, in today's world, finding the way of thinking and acting is not that difficult. There are so many books out there where people tell you the way of thinking and acting that led them to be successful in whatever endeavor it is. But the willingness to drop your old way of doing things.
Yeah, the programming underneath.
Yes, because the programming largely comes from, as I said earlier, trying to do it in a way that will allow you to be safe in your family. And if a person feels like, gosh, I mean, they aren't doing this consciously either. If I drop this way of thinking and acting that I have now,
then who am I? Then
I'm not going to be safe. There's something that, in a very visceral level, feels unsafe about that. So another element of this is that we have some ways of helping people to get rid of the negative emotional charge from these old root cause emotional events, because that then frees them up to more easily focus on what they do want and keep their attention off what they don't want. Even if you didn't do that, though, a person with enough persistence could break that habit and learn to focus on what they do want.
Bill, I love learning from you, and I keep learning from you because I do my meditation your way, and I'm looking forward to more and more of my students learning from you. I thank you so much.
I look forward to it.
You're a hero of mine.
Thanks so much, Raymond.
Thank you.